I'm David Holmgren, the co-originator of Permaculture, here at home in Malliadora, our 1 hectare property on the edge of Hepburn Springs in central Victoria. From Malliadora, we've lived a home-based lifestyle for the last 30 years while helping to extend permaculture as a world-changing movement that very much is about relocalizing our communities and our economies. And my main focus has always been to demonstrate how the household economy of non-monetary exchange, gift and reciprocity is both the foundation for strong, resilient communities that actually have a low ecological impact, as well as rebuilding local monetary economies. I think over the decades, permaculture has contributed to that acknowledgement and importance of these smaller localized economies for radically reducing ecological footprint, enormous efficiency increases to reverse the transition of activities out of those economies over the last couple of 100 years and accelerating in recent time to monetarize and therefore give access to corporations and government tax revenues. So many things that we can actually do at home, from producing food to children's education to looking after our and maintaining our material possessions rather than being on a consumption cycle. Also see that this way of living is a way of showing the convergence between the over-consuming, over-affluent countries and those where people are not having their basic needs met. That we can show that convergence by people who do come from education and privilege of having been born in what in Australia we call the lucky country, that we can live a way which is actually towards a pathway which people in more difficult situations can live also. My work, Retro Suburbia, in the last few years has focused on how in affluent countries where the majority of people live in suburban landscapes can retrofit the built, the biological and the behavioural fields of those environments for their own greater resilience to challenging times which are clearly unfolding on multiple fronts, and also how that can revitalise those suburban landscapes as agriculturally abundant landscapes, rather than being seen as lost landscapes that we somehow have to abandon if we're going to deal with the environmental crisis. The fact that this transformation can begin from the household and community level without waiting for governments to align their policies around this is a huge plus. And expanding across the suburbs in countries like Australia and around the world, this retro-suburban movement is like a third iteration of permaculture that's been unfolding over many decades. And I think that relocalization of relocalizing in our own households has been highlighted by the pandemic, where so many people have found that their household is very fragile, very limited, very unable to support and nurture them, and other people have become enormously empowered to say they are going to change that for the better. So I think that localizing our economies, localizing our world, and remembering that the household is an incredibly important building block to building the greater diversity at the local level.